So, are psychedelics and weed useful on your spiritual path? And the answer is, as with everything, it depends. If it's something that you feel pulled towards, that you feel excited about and curious about, and kind of joyful about, then it's definitely a good thing to explore. But it is about alignment. So, you can use any object or any tool in alignment or out of alignment. And that depends on what your intentions are with it. So if you use psychedelics regularly just for fun, there's nothing wrong with that either. But when you use it very specifically to further your spiritual growth and go into the experience with intentions that they can be widely varied. It could be anything from learning about surrender to learning about love to looking into your shadow work and healing, whatever you want to do with it. It can be very useful for that. Weed or psychedelics, I'm talking about both of them in this one. And it can help open up different perspectives that are just too hard for you to see in your set thinking patterns that you normally have all day, every day. It gives you a little extra burst to make it through those, to see patterns differently and zoom out to see a different picture. And for me personally, weed is very, very useful for doing that and helping me see the bigger picture. And I wouldn't say it gets judgments out of the way necessarily, but it makes it easier to see around your judgments to figure out the truth of things and how to talk to the universe. So, psychedelics, a lot of people who use them for spiritual purposes, and I'm going to use ayahuasca as an example in this one, go about it in a little bit of a strange way that probably isn't especially beneficial to them, because they make it into like such a big important figure that it's almost godlike. It's like a godlike presence to them, and it's almost worshiping the plant and worshiping the mushroom or worshiping the LSD or whatever. But for some reason there's this really intense attitude around ayahuasca that people make it into a long vacation and plan so much time around it and go into it, and whatever they hear or learn about from the universe while they're using ayahuasca, they take it and make it into such an important thing that it's really blown out of proportion to what it should be. Because the insights you get on LSD or mushrooms or ayahuasca, they are important. It's not that they're not, and they can be very useful if you go and implement them into your life. But that sort of thing happens daily in meditation, and when you learn to connect to the universe through practicing a daily practice, that's just smaller steps, and you just build a daily practice of meditation into your life so it just becomes a part of you. The sort of things that happen while you're experiencing psychedelic insights just happen naturally. So focusing too much on the ayahuasca or the psychedelic being the source of your knowledge is really putting the power in the wrong place. And then when you do have an insight on this, which I've seen a couple times, that people kind of have this one big insight and it's their first real spiritual experience, so it's very important to them and there's a lot of emotional energy in it. But they think this one thing they learned is the thing, and this is the insight, and now they just have this special knowledge, which is fine. It's a good thing to feel. But I've seen people start to build their lives around that knowledge and the experience of ayahuasca. If, for example, you were to meditate every day, the big insight you got from ayahuasca would just be Friday's insight, and then the next day you'd have a new one and a new one and a new one, and they would all build on top of each other. So I have seen in some cases people who use psychedelics just get really stuck on thinking this one insight is everything and trying to form so much around it that they don't realize that there's there's no end. They just stop here and don't continue on. So nothing wrong with using them, just be aware that they're a tool and they're not the end all be all, and the information you can receive using those is not the end, it's the beginning. You keep going and keep growing. And similar answer for alcohol, it can help you get your thinking mind a little out of the way in order to open up like different sorts of thinking and mental pathways while you're meditating. That one, again, you just have to decide for yourself if that's something you want. That's not a favorite of mine, but for some people that does work. And you don't need any of those things. You can be completely sober in every way and have all of this happen to you, and that happens like very often to me. So you can do any of these, none of these, whatever you want, but it's really up to you to find your own alignment with it. There's no judgment from the universe. You don't feel like you don't have to feel like you need to give up any of these things if you are actually using it intentionally and it's benefiting you. So that was something I had to go through for a while, because I was kind of pushing myself to give up weed as a tool, even though it was still really helpful for me. And it took a while for me to finally believe that the universe didn't care. And it's like, if this is helping you, you use it. That's what tools are for. And you don't need to force yourself to give up a tool that is benefiting you while it's benefiting you. But generally, most tools eventually fall away naturally. And that's happened to me with psychedelics. For a few years, I used them about twice a year. And in the last year or so, the uses just haven't been that interesting, because I just get so much information on a regular basis anyway from connecting with the universe that there's not really much point to psychedelics anymore. And that can happen with tools, and then you just either you're the tool, you're it, or you can find another tool. But just like anything, be gentle with it. Don't judge yourself too much if you need to or want to use any of these tools, but also just make sure you don't give that tool more power than you give yourself, because that's where the problems come in and that's where misunderstandings happen. So choice is yours.